The speaker is to assume she's a spokesperson for a company or organization that is experiencing a crisis. The purpose of the speech is to prepare a speech for the media about the company crisis that builds and maintain a positive image for the company. Following the speech, there will be question and answer period from the media. Fellow members will assume the role of media reporters, asking the speaker question about the crisis and the company or organization handling it. So the speech will be for the 6-minute presentation, 3 to 5 minutes question and answer. The title of the speech is The Unpredictability of Life. Please, fellow, let's welcome this one right here. That's me. Let's welcome our speaker, Mary Anne Burrows.
I'd like to thank CTV London News for arranging this news conference. I am Mary Anne Burrows, the representative of the Jersey Zoo and Wildlife Park in Jersey Island, England. I'm here today to talk about an incident that occurred in our zoo a few weeks back. Our zoo has been open since March of 1958, and we've had over 25 million people walk through our doors. This is the first incident we've ever had of this kind. Our zoo, we pride ourselves in allowing the opportunity for our animals to roam freely so that people and the visitors can experience these animals up close and personal, but still maintain their natural habitat. On August 31st, the Merritt family came to visit our zoo. They came upon the silverback gorilla exhibit. And those of you who have been to our zoo know that the exhibit is an open area where the animals can roam. And then there's a wall about adult height, chest height. And that particular day, the animals were playing close to the edge of the wall, so it was a little bit difficult to see the animals. So Mr. Merritt picked up his son, Levin, who was 5 years old, and placed him on top of the wall. And then his other son, Lloyd, caught his attention, so he bent down to pick up Lloyd. And as he stood up, he looked over, and Levin was standing up on the wall, fell 12 feet into the gorilla pit, hitting his head on a cement tile. You can imagine what his family felt like and all the visitors watching this take place right before their very eyes. And if that wasn't horrible enough, all the gorillas started rushing over to the little Levin to see what all the commotion was. The first animal that came to Levin was a 400-pound male gorilla. He literally crouched over little Levin's body. Everyone held their breath in terror, wondering what he would do to the little boy. But to the amazement of everyone watching, the gorilla sat down gently right next to little Ben, in a stance of protection, as though he was saying to the rest of the gorillas, "Stay back, I've got this under control." And occasionally, he even reached out and patted little Ben on the back. One of the people in the audience was a nurse, and she suggested that they begin to call his name because she was concerned that he might go into a coma. So they began to chant his name, and just about that time, little Ben looked up and saw the gorilla. So he started to scream at the top of his lungs. Just about that time, the ambulance arrived. There were 2 attendants. They surveyed the situation to try to figure out the best way to rescue little Ben. Brian Fox, one of the attendants, jumped into the pit, but he knew he had to get close enough to the little boy in order to check him out. And whenever they the little boy started screaming, all the gorillas started to run away. So two of the attendants decided to help corral the animals to the indoor enclosure. And they successfully pulled them all into the indoor area, except for one of the gorillas named Hobbit. And Hobbit darted out and started frantically running back and forth and back and forth. So again, everyone was terrified of what he would do. So the two zookeepers decided to come out and see if they could keep Hobbit at bay while Brian had the opportunity to examine little Levin's body. So he began to check him out, found out that he felt that he was safe to move. In the meantime, Hobbit was throwing rocks at the attendants because he wasn't too happy to have these visitors in his pit. So Brian decided that it was best to pull down a rope, have a rope pulled down. So they put down the rope. He wrapped the rope around his waist and then very gently picked up little Ben and they hoisted him up to safety. The ambulance took him to the nearest hospital, and fortunately the two attendants were able to find safety as well. So today I'm here to tell you that though Levin was in the hospital for about 2.5 weeks, and the doctors have released him to his parents' care, and they feel that all of his injuries will be healed and he will be back to normal in a short order. But this time I would like to ask our two ambulance attendants, Brian Fox and Renee Connor, to please come forward so that I can offer the certificate of appreciation for
Thank you. It's
a
all
job.
in a day's work.
Yeah, this was a job beyond your normal work, so I want to thank you very much for your
Thank you.
assistance in saving. And I would like to call up the two zookeepers as well, Andy Wood and Aaron Clark. For risking their lives to assist in the recovery of Levin. And I would also like to thank Jumbo, the gentle giant, for all of his assistance in the recovery of and rescue of little Levin. This time I would like to open up the floor to any questions from the news media.
So is there any other measures you are taking so that this kind of incident will not happen in future?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. Actually, we have put bars up on that wall, and we also have extra signs of caution as well. And the zoo has invited the family back to the zoo to finish their vacation as soon as Levin is completely healed.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm curious, how did you manage to get a job in that zoo, seeing as you don't have an English accent?
Everybody was going to ask that question, and that's a very good question. Actually, my uncle, Jared Darrell, is the man who is responsible for the vision of this zoo, as well as this was his passion and his life work. As he got to the point where he knew he would not be able to carry on with his mission any longer, he sent a note to all his family members asking if anybody would be willing to come and move to England, or for those of us that no longer lived in England. And so that is why I have an English accent, or I'm American rather than an English accent, because I'm very as passionate of these animals as he was, and I want to carry on that legacy. Yes.
Did I miss who Jumbo is? You said-
Oh, Jumbo is the gorilla who was the first to arrive at the scene, who sat next to little Ben and gently patted him and encouraged his recovery. Yes,
This is a true story.
this is a true story.
And so the gorillas weren't violent.
No, and even the scientists were absolutely amazed because nobody knew what kind of response they would have. Obviously, Hobbit, who was a younger gorilla, was a bit more frantic with the situation, but Jumbo proved to be man's best friend. One more question?
When Hobbit was running
Yes.
around, how did you manage to contain him
Well,
before you arrived?
the two zookeepers they did their best to keep them at bay, and they just had a stance of stay back, buddy, and that worked. Unfortunately, we did not have to do any harm to any of the animals in order to rescue. Okay, so I would like to again thank everyone who participated in any way in the recovery and rescue of little Levin. I ask that everyone continue to send prayers to the Merritt family and especially Levin. And I invite you all to come and experience